Hey guys, this is Dana, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about the question and the concept of what is a codependent relationship. So, I think first and foremost, it's really important when we're talking about a codependent relationship that we extend and expand our understanding of this to not just be a relationship, but a dynamic. So, what do I mean by that? I mean, how we tend to do one thing in our life is how we tend to do multiple things in our life. So, let me give you an example that we're not like emotionally invested in, okay? So, if a person is a little bit messy, okay, let's say if their car is a little bit messy, how they are in one area is how they are in multiple areas, right? So if their car is a little messy, odds are their closet's a little bit messy. Odds are their office is a little bit messy. Odds are their finances are a little bit messy. Odds are, the house is a little bit messy, and so on. It's the same way with any kind of personality or character trait. If how we are in one way tends to be how we are in multiple ways. So, and this is why it's so important in general to pay attention to a person's character. This is kind of off topic a little bit, but when we're first meeting other people, this is why it's so important with these red flags. If we start seeing problematic behavior, if a person's showing character traits that if they are lying or cheating or stealing, if they're doing that in one area of their life, odds are they're doing it in multiple areas as well. So, it's looking to make sure that a person's kind of got good character is really important. So okay, back to the topic. So with codependency, if we have some sort of codependent dynamic going on in one area, odds are it's also going on in other areas. This really tripped me up. I think it trips a lot of people up. This tripped me up for decades. So I was thinking, and here's what else is interesting with this. I did not think that I had any codependent issues going on with my significant others. I only saw it with friendships, interestingly enough. And I think I might be kind of unusual in that. I think a lot of people tend to see it maybe more so in their relationships with their significant others. I did not. Did not see that till probably about 6 months ago. If even that, maybe even like 3 months ago. Like I really saw my stuff more so with friendships. So it's important that and really as the waves of awareness come like crashing over me, the more I see the bigger picture of all of this. So I think it's important that we look at our dynamic with other people in every single aspect of our life. How are we with our significant other? How are we with children if we have children? How are we with our parents, our extended family, our friends, our coworkers, our boss, our next door neighbor, people we volunteer with, people that we might go to church with? Seeing the full picture. Because again, how we tend to do something is how we tend to do everything. So this codependent dynamic, it tends to be, kind of simply put, it's either this neediness or it's needing to be needed. And it comes across as either kind of one of three ways. And of course, it can be a blend of all three. It can be really clingy behavior, it can be very controlling behavior, or very caretaking behavior. I and of course, all of these, how that shows up, it tends to be a lot of really great personality traits like empathy, compassion, kindness, forgiveness, being a very understanding, decent person. The problem is when all of that kind of behavior is taken to an extreme. And so I think because it's all of these great personality traits, it can be really hard for a codependent person to spot that there's a problem. That was my issue. I just thought, no, I don't have an issue with codependency. Just because I'm a decent human being does not mean that I have an issue. Like maybe y'all have the issue, like because you're not a decent human being, right? Like that was kind of my thinking. Is like, no, just because I go out of my way to help other people does not mean that that's a bad thing. So I did not understand my role in this for a really long time. I see it a lot more clearly now, but I didn't see it then. So, codependent relationships, they tend to be very unbalanced relationships. And this dynamic tends to start in childhood, and it tends to be the result of a very unbalanced relationship that we have with our parents. So more it was generally understood that codependency happened when a person had a parent who was an addict or an alcoholic. However, it's not. And so that tripped me up too, because I thought, well, my parents weren't addicts, they weren't alcoholics. So, like, how could I be codependent? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But really, it's not the fact that the parent was an addict or an alcoholic. It was the fact that the parent was either emotionally and or physically unavailable. That was the problem. So some forms of emotional unavailability are addiction or alcoholism, but they're not just limited to that. So it can be a parent being mentally ill. It can be a parent having a personality disorder where they're not effectively bonding with the child. It could be a parent who, let's say, is chronically depressed. It could be a parent who is a workaholic and they're never home. So there could be lots of other things going on that contribute to this kind of emotional neglect or emotional abandonment. It's not just addiction or alcoholism. And for this reason, it's really important that if we do have children, that we talk to our children about healthy boundaries and healthy standards. Because here's the thing, if we are in a relationship with a significant other, right, and that there's codependency going on, especially if the other person has got a personality disorder and they're not, or an addiction or alcoholism, and they're not effectively bonding with their children, it's not just us that's in this dysfunctional relationship. Our children are in a dysfunctional relationship too. And so, and because they're children and they don't know any different, because of course, again, we are our own baseline for normal, right? So this is just normal for them. It's really important that we talk to them. So as we're going through, if we're getting therapy, if we're going to, codependent anonymous type groups, to talk to our children about that so we can hopefully open up this conversation and break any of this bad behavior. Uh, so so codependent relationships. Codependent relationships tend to be this idea of commitment at all cost. And by all cost generally involves at the expense of our emotional and physical health. So a lot of people that are in codependent relationships, they tend to have a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of frustration, a lot of irritation, and these feelings just grow over time. And so those kind of uncomfortable feelings are a great way to tell if there's something that's out of balance. So I'm a big believer there is no such thing as negative emotion. Our emotions are there to give us messages. And so if we're experiencing these uncomfortable emotions, it's because something's off, generally boundaries. So we need to bring them back into alignment. And that the way that is best done is through just being assertive and saying no, and just saying like what you can and can't do and what's comfortable, like just what is appropriate and what is reasonable. And that takes a lot of practice, because a lot of codependent people, myself included, have a hard time saying no, have a hard time with knowing kind of, we feel guilty about everything. It's kind of this level of inappropriate guilt over things. So because a lot of codependent people have this compulsion, it's just this knee-jerk reaction to jump in and help or to fix, and it burns us out. It burns us out emotionally, financially, physically, and it's absolutely exhausting. So let me give some examples here. So I mentioned that codependent behavior tends to be a lot of positive traits done to an extreme, but it comes across oftentimes as us being controlling, us being excessively caretaking, and us being clingy. So controlling, and this was another thing that tripped me up, because I never thought of my behavior as controlling. So when people would talk about codependency and controlling behavior, I think I just tuned it out, because I'm like, well, this obviously does not apply to me, because I viewed controlling behavior, we all have these ideas of what certain behavior looks like. So to me, controlling behavior was very micromanaging. It was very smothering. It was very negative. It came from a place of, from just like a negative, smothering place. And I didn't think that I was coming from that same place. I didn't feel like that anyhow. And so all of my quote unquote helpful behavior was coming from a place, I thought, of just wanting to be helpful. But really, where it was coming from was this, I think, this mindset of that I somehow needed to earn love, or that the value that I brought to any friendship or relationship was being helpful. Like that was kind of how that was the value that I brought. Like I am really fantastic at being helpful. Like that's my skill. And so I didn't like it if I not only didn't like it, I felt really uncomfortable if I couldn't help. Because if I wasn't needed, then I just thought, well, then I guess I'll be replaced. Not really knowing that I just had inherent value as a human being, and that I brought many other things to the table, that I didn't have to run myself ragged trying to prove my worth. That just did not cross my mind for like a really long time. So let me give you some examples. I think you'll be able to better see this. So controlling behavior. So for example, when I was married, my husband made a lot more money than I did. And and again, I don't think a lot of this was necessarily like a conscious thing. I see it more clearly now because hindsight's always 2020. But it was more of this, I was really uncomfortable with that because I kind of thought, well, then I really need to up my game. Like, what am I going to be bringing to the table? And so I was just running myself ragged. I was like a personal assistant on steroids, trying to do anything and everything to compensate for that, to try to like balance the scales. But with, I think, a lot of codependent people in general, especially me, it was like I felt like I had to give twice as much in order for it to be to this level. And I was burning myself out. I was running myself ragged. I mean, it was ridiculous. My reaction to everything back then was like, I'll just handle it. I will handle all of it. Like, I got it. Like I'll check the mail and I'll take the cars in to get serviced. And mind you, I also worked full time, right? I'll handle mowing the yard, and I'll do all the cooking, and I'll go all the grocery shopping, and I'll clean the house, and I'll take care of the dogs, and I'm just gonna do all of it. And the thing is, my ex-husband, he wasn't the one that expected that of me or even wanted that. I was the one, from my insecurities were driving me to do that. So, I really created this very codependent dynamic. And that honestly, that marriage would have never worked because a large part had to do with me, because it just was this level of dysfunction within myself where it was a no-win situation, because he couldn't win. Had he had said, Dana, I don't want you to be doing all of this, I would have felt like, oh, well, does he think I can't handle all this? Like, oh, it's just crazy. It's crazy. The poor guy. Like, it's crazy. So it was a no-win situation, because I was burning myself out, but I felt like I had no choice but to burn myself out. Had he volunteered to help with any of it, or wanted me to stop doing it, that resentment would have even grown further. So that's kind of an example of controlling behavior. Example of caretaking behavior that I think a lot of codependent people have. It's the feeling of being either a parent or a teacher or a nurse or a therapist to either your significant other or to friends, I think is how it, or even at work. Like, again, any dynamic between any people is how this tends to come across. So it can, again, very one-sided dynamic. So it's this idea of our friends are only there maybe if they need something from us, and then they generally need us to be like a therapist or a teacher or a parent to them. And again, not all of our friendships might be like this. It might just be like certain ones where it's more exacerbated, more obvious than in other dynamics in our life. Or with a significant other, if they have some sort of, especially if they've got like an addiction or alcoholism or a personality disorder, where we are feeling the need to continually make things okay, right? It's this excessive caregiving. It's the, well, we're gonna commitment at all cost. I'm just gonna stick with you through hell and high water, or high water, and we're gonna get you fixed. We're gonna fix this relationship. And so here the codependent person is continually like apologizing or justifying or minimizing or denying or deflecting or blaming this person's abusive or bad or destructive behavior on anything and everything else. And of course, this is a match made in hell, right? If you've got a codependent person with a highly manipulative person, which is generally an addict or an alcoholic or a narcissist or a sociopath, who is exploiting all of a codependent person's good traits, which tend to be, empathy and compassion and kindness and forgiveness and understanding. So this manipulative person is telling them really everything that they need to hear, and doing a great job too at making them feel guilty if they try to have boundaries. And of course, codependent people feel guilty over everything because we feel this level of hyper responsibility for everything. So you've got this manipulative person that is blaming their behavior on alcohol, on substances, on other women or other men or their friends or their childhood or their parents or work or stress or they're blaming the codependent person and saying, you know what, all my bad behavior is all your fault, right? You're the reason. And this is like the stereotypical thing that abusers do, right? It's the, well, look at what you made me do. Like, you made me yell at you. You made me do this. You made me cheat. You made me lie. You made me steal. It's all you. I did this for you. You drove me to it. And this is, of course, incredibly crazy making for anybody. But it's, I think, even more so for codependent people, because we do tend to feel hyper responsible for other people. And of course, it doesn't work that way because other people are adults, right? So they need to be adult and own their behavior. But manipulative people don't own their behavior. That's what makes them manipulative. So that's kind of a rundown as far as what a codependent relationship is. Very broad brush. We're going to go into this in so much more detail in the upcoming videos. So that's it for now. I'll be curious to see what you guys have to say about this, and please comment down below and we will just go from there. So as always, lots of love to you guys. You are not alone, you are not crazy, and you really can heal from this. So take care, and I will talk to you soon. Okay, bye.